everyone, I'm Angela Duncan, agency owner with We Insure Tampa Bay. I am super excited today to provide you Insurance 101 on behalf of Habitat for Humanity. I hope by the end of this session you become a homeowner insurance expert. So first off, I do want to say congratulations on your way to becoming a homeowner. There's so much to learn, and I'm happy to explain homeowners insurance, hopefully without putting you to sleep. So a little bit about myself. I have been in investing, real estate, and insurance for the past 20 years. I know, I got started when I was 5, just kidding. So go ahead and make sure you grab a pen and a piece of paper because I would like for you to take notes. There will be a pop quiz at the end of this session. So let's take a look at our first slide today. Why do you need insurance? We're going to go over that in today's session. Understanding your insurance policy will be a big part of today. Flood insurance, which is also very important in the state of Florida. I do want to explain that further to you. And finally, the pop quiz, as I talked about at the end of the session. Having homeowners insurance will be very important to you, as your home is probably going to be the most important asset that you have in your entire life. So understanding homeowners insurance is very important to becoming a homeowner. So let's first define what is homeowners insurance. Well, homeowners insurance covers losses or damages to your home. It can also cover the personal belongings that you hold within your home as well. Furniture, clothing, things like that, those are personal belongings that are covered in your homeowners insurance. So if you think about your homeowners insurance policy, there are 4 components to the homeowners insurance policy. It's for your interior of your home, the exterior of your home, losses or damages to those personal assets I just spoke about inside your home, and any injuries that may occur inside your home or on the premises of your home. So let's talk about who is covered. If you think about your insurance policy, the person that's named on your insurance, most likely you, perhaps your spouse, and a mortgage lender. Those are the 3 people that are typically included in your homeowner insurance policy. Your lender does have an interest of the home because they did loan you the money in order to purchase the home. They are also covered in your insurance policy. Insurance companies, well, they're in the business of making money with your insurance. So in this session, we will also go over what does it affect your insurance policy. So let's talk a little bit more about that. So let's talk about some factors that may affect the cost of insurance for your home. The first thing that I have on this slide talks about the replacement cost of your home. The replacement cost is the actual cost to build your home. So for example, if something were to happen to your home, say a fire, and it took your home all the way to the ground, how much would it cost for you to rebuild that home? That's what we refer to as the replacement cost. This is a very important component of your insurance, so make sure that your insurance expert goes over this with you and you have proper coverage to rebuild your home. Next, we'll talk about the type and the age of your roof. Now, there are several different types of roofs, but the 2 main ones here that we see in Florida is the hip roof and the gable roof. If you take a look here at the illustration, it'll show you the difference between the 2. Habitat for Humanity uses the hip roof when they are building your home. This type of roof is the least riskiest for an insurance carrier. If you think about and look at the gable roof and the hip roof, you can see the difference between the 2, and the hip roof is the one that we tend to have Habitat for Humanity build most often so that your home is less risk to the insurance carrier. Next, let's talk about the type of construction. Now this one's kind of tricky because from the outside, a block home and a frame home could look exactly the same, but really the construction of the 2 are very different. So if we talk about a block home, which is what Habitat for Humanity does when they build homes for their clients, it is made out of a concrete block structure. Now, the other difference is a frame home. If you look to see when a home is being built, a frame home is built out of wood. You do not see concrete block. So if we go back to that example about a fire, the block home is definitely less risky for the insurance company than a frame home. Therefore, the cost to insure a block home is going to be less typically than a frame home. Next, let's talk about location. There's many different factors about location. How close are you to the water? Are you in a gated community, a guarded community? Is there a fire station close to your home? Is there a fire hydrant close to your home? Those are all factors that are going to be in the insurance carriers their own ratio in order for them to determine how much does it cost to insure your home. For a Habitat for Humanity home, typically are not located close to the water and they're not located in gated communities. Next, let's talk about updates on your home. Now, with the Habitat for Humanity, obviously you're getting a brand new home. But if you were going to be purchasing a home that is not Habitat for Humanity, the age of your home and the updates that are done to some of the larger ticket items do affect the insurance on your home. So things like roof, water heater, plumbing, and AC are some of the major components an insurance company will look for, and that can affect your rate. Next, another item that can affect the cost of your insurance is going to be an alarm, whether or not you have it. If you do have an alarm, whether it's with ADT or very popular today is the Ring, that could help lower the cost of insurance for your home. So definitely have that conversation with your insurance expert to make sure that you're getting the proper credits that you deserve on your insurance policy. Another factor that is very important is your age. Yes, we do ask for your date of birth as an insurance expert because the insurance companies are going to want to know how old you are, and that does go into the insurance rate for your home. Also, a deductible. I'll talk a little bit more later about what is a deductible, but the deductible that you choose for your insurance policy will definitely also affect your insurance rate. If you have had a home before, your claim history is another factor that an insurance carrier will look at. Whether or not you had claims in the past, and not just on homeowners, but whether or not you've had a claim with your auto, with a boat, RV, or any of those items also go into effect when looking at your insurance rate. Finally, we'll talk about endorsements later in this session, but endorsements are added policies to your existing insurance policy that will also affect your rate. Next, let's talk about homeowners insurance covered peril. Peril is a very important word that we use in the insurance industry. What is a peril? The peril is the actual loss that occurs to your home in which you will have to file a homeowner's insurance claim. There are several perils that we do look for in your insurance policy, and you will want to talk to your insurance expert to make sure that you understand which perils are covered and which are not. Some of the most common perils in an insurance policy that you will want to make sure is covered is fire, also lightning. We are the Tampa Bay area, very prone to lightning. And no, I'm not talking about the hockey team, although I do love the hockey team, go Bolts, but you want to make sure that lightning is a covered peril in your policy. Obviously, very common here also is hurricanes and windstorms. We do get a lot of wind here in the Tampa Bay area, and we want to make sure that that's a covered peril in your insurance policy. Vandalism, that refers to if someone were to come and break into your home, they can damage your windows or perhaps some of your personal property. You want to make sure that that's also covered in your home. Damage caused by vehicles. Believe it or not, I have personally had an instance where a vehicle drove through the front of the home. We want to make sure that vehicles are also covered and part of your insurance policy. Now, one question I do get often is if a car is parked inside of your garage, does your homeowner's insurance cover that? Well, it depends. If it is covered under your insurance policy, you want to make sure it's added. But yes, typically a car that's parked inside of the garage, if it suffers damage while inside of the garage, it should be covered part of your insurance policy. Now, your auto insurance, if your car is parked outside of the house, will typically be the one that you're going to go to should anything happen to your car outside of your garage. For example, a tree falling. If it hits your car outside of your garage, most likely you're going to go with your auto insurance. If the car is inside of the garage and say the tree hits the roof and comes through, then that will typically be covered in your homeowner's insurance. Next peril, smoke. So say for example you have a 2-story building and there's a fire in the 1st story and smoke damages the 2nd story. This is typically a covered peril as well, but you want to make sure that that's part of your policy. Theft is the next one, and theft kind of goes back to the vandalism. So say for example someone did break into your home and they stole objects or any personal belongings that were in your home, that should be covered in your insurance policy. Falling objects, well, we kind of talked about the trees earlier, so that would be something that's important. You want to make sure that trees are covered. But on that same note too, ask your insurance expert whether or not the removal of the tree is covered in your insurance policy. Typically, that's an added endorsement, or it may be included in your policy, but best to ask that question up front, because that can be an expensive cost to you as the homeowner if it's not included in your insurance policy. Last and not least on here is overflow of water. This is typically what we see a lot with older homes because the pipings under the ground and inside the home are older quality pipes, and this is usually the #1 claim on homeowners insurance: water damage. Not only is it the #1 claim that we see most often, but also it is the most expensive that we see outside of hurricane damage. So make sure that you have water coverage and that it's not limited, or you understand what that part of the peril of your policy is to ensure you have proper coverage with the home. So now let's talk about your declarations page. Once you have chosen the type of insurance and gone with the carrier that you feel best suits you, I recommend that you and your insurance expert do take a look at your declarations page. This shows a 1 to 2 page brief outline of your insurance coverage. So let's talk about the different sections that you will see on the declaration page. First, of course, at the top should be your correct name and your correct address. Believe me, I've seen it before where typos and things happen where it's not correct. So make sure that your name is spelled correctly. Your insurance agent is also probably listed at the top of your declarations page, so that if you have any questions, be sure to get in contact with your insurance expert first. Let's talk about some of the different sections that you'll see here on the declarations page. So if you look in section 1, coverage A, that's the dwelling amount. We kind of talked about this a little bit earlier. This is the replacement cost of your building, and you want to ensure that this is properly covered for your home. Section B talks about other structures. So other structures could be a shed in the backyard, it could be a detached garage, it could be a deck that's not attached to your home, it could be additional fences. So take a look at that coverage B and make sure there's enough coverage there should you need it to cover anything that's not attached to the home. The next section, coverage C, is your personal property. Usually it's a percentage of your coverage A, but take a look there. This is important for you to review because if you have any type of collectibles, anything of that nature, you will want to make sure there's enough coverage here. This section is for things like furniture, could be rugs, dishes, clothes, any of your personal belongings that you brought into the home after you moved in. So ensure there's enough coverage in coverage C. Coverage D is loss of use. So say, for example, something happened to your home, whether it's the fire that we talked about earlier or a hurricane that came through, your house is no longer able for you to live in. At that time, this is where this coverage comes in. Loss of use has to do with you not being able to use your home. So say, for example, you had hotel bills or you needed restaurant bills, cost of food, maybe you needed some additional clothes while you're not living in your home. That's where this coverage comes in, and again, you want to make sure there's enough coverage here for you so that you can cover your expenses should you not be able to live in your home. The next section here we're going to talk about is coverage E, and this is the liability section. This is also really important for us to take a look at. If someone were to slip and fall in your home and they decided to hire an attorney or do something that they would need to sue you for, this is the section that will cover that. So there's different options available depending on the carrier. I've seen the liability as low as $50,000 and I've seen it go up to $500,000. So make sure that you talk with your insurance expert to determine what is the right amount of coverage for you. Next section is coverage F. This is medical expenses. So similar to the example I just gave you, say for example someone did slip and fall inside your home and they had to be sent to the hospital and now they've incurred medical bills. That's where this coverage will kick in. So we want to make sure that you have enough coverage in here to cover their medical bills, and hopefully we won't have to use the liability coverage of your insurance. The cost of your insurance we talked about earlier, there's many factors that are involved in determining what that dollar amount. So that dollar amount in our language is called the premium. The premium is what you as the homeowner will be paying every year for the cost of your insurance. So you really want to talk about this dollar amount with your insurance expert as well, because we want to make sure that you have all of the right coverages and that you understand what the total premium is going to be for the year. Now, if you have a loan on the property, this will be included in your monthly payment with your lender. Now let's talk about the deductible. The deductible is the amount of your insurance that you are responsible to pay. So let's go back to our fire example. Say, for example, your home did catch fire and now you have damages to your home. Your insurance policy will help cover some of those damages. However, the deductible is the amount you as the homeowner are responsible for. They can range from about $500 up to $1,000, $2,500, $5,000. So please make sure when you're discussing this information with your insurance expert that you can afford this deductible. I know that sometimes some homeowners will pick a higher deductible in order to reduce their insurance costs, but make sure that when you do need your insurance that you can afford this deductible. So earlier I mentioned endorsements. An endorsement is something that you can add to your existing policy. And I'd like to review a couple endorsements with you, as you may want to talk with your insurance expert and adding these to your policy. So if you have a screened pool enclosure, sometimes that is not covered with your basic homeowner's insurance. So make sure that if you do have an enclosure, that's covered, not only the frame of the enclosure, but also the net that goes around the enclosure as well. Mold. This is also something that's not always covered with insurance policies. And you could have a slow leak in your pipes in the walls and not know about it for months at a time, and when you go to open that up, mold is there. And mold is not always covered with your insurance policy, so please make sure you do add that to it. Next is animal liability. This is a hot topic for a lot of people. Many insurance carriers have policies in place to where if you have certain breeds of dogs, for example, they're not going to cover any animal liability. In fact, some carriers will not even insure you as a homeowner if you do have those breeds. So make sure you let your insurance agent know if you do have pets in the home, what kind of pets they are, and if they have any recorded bite history as well, because those are all factors that will go into your homeowner's insurance. You can add this to your policy, and I do recommend that you do so if you do have a pet that lives in your home. Next, let's talk about ordinance of law. So say, for example, your home was built 15, 20, 30, 50 years ago. The laws have likely changed when it comes to rebuilding your home. You want to ensure that you have proper coverage should the cost to rebuild your home be more expensive today than it was when you purchased your home. Equipment breakdown. I do get this question a lot from people. What is equipment breakdown? It has to do with actual equipment of your home. So if you think about your AC, your water pump, things like that that may have a breakdown, if it is a costly expense, you may want to look at adding this to your policy so it can help cover should you have a problem with your AC or your water heater. Water backup. This is also kind of similar to what we talked about. It gets confused a lot with flooding. Water backup has to do with the pipes in your wall. We gave that example earlier about mold. This is the coverage that you want to ensure is in your policy, especially if you have an older home. Sinkhole coverage. A lot of people ask me about sinkholes. So if you look at your standard regular homeowner's insurance policy, most times they're going to have catastrophic ground coverage. What that means is if you do have a sinkhole on your property and the city, the county, the state, they come in and condemn your home, meaning you cannot live there anymore, then your sinkhole will go into effect. However, not all policies have that, so make sure your insurance expert reviews that with you and include that in your coverage. Also with sinkholes, say for example you have a small crack in the side of your house and you are able to still live in your home and you call your insurance company to make a claim, unfortunately that is not a catastrophic event and most likely will be excluded unless you have asked your insurance expert to include that in your policy. So these are endorsements. They can be added to your current policy and you'll have to determine with your insurance expert if they are right for you. So next question is, what are some items that are typically not covered with a standard insurance policy? Some of those can include active war, or terrorism, which is quite a popular question that I get now too. So if, for example, we go to war, or someone decides to have an act of terrorism to us here and your home is damaged, unfortunately, most times that is not going to be included in your policy. Acts of God for us here, hurricane coverage is typically included. However, flood coverage is usually an additional endorsement or policy that you may want to consider adding to your insurance policy, and it's not typically covered in the basic homeowner's insurance policy. Wear and tear, this is not a home warranty, so if your fridge is old, if your roof is old, make sure you replace it before you have any damage that occurs to the home. Intentional losses, that means if the homeowner purposefully neglected the home or neglected to fix something in the home and the insurance carrier determines that it was intentional, then they may not cover that as well. Water damage, now for a Habitat for Humanity home, this is not something that you typically run into, but for our older homeowners, water damage on homes that are more than 35, 40, and 50 years old may be excluded from your policy unless you ask them to add it back in. So make sure you talk about that as well. Okay, so this is my favorite topic to talk about, flood insurance. As you can see from my illustration here, Florida is surrounded by water. So whether or not your lender tells you you need flood insurance, most homes are in some type of flood zone. Some are a little bit riskier than others. I always recommend that you take a look at a flood insurance policy because if you're not required to have it by your lender, chances are it is still likely something inexpensive that you can add to help protect your home. So, what is flooding exactly? Flooding is an event where you have two or more properties that have water that come into the home. Of course, one of those properties being yours, but kind of some things that you think about are maybe the waters coming in from the Gulf. It could be runoff waters from a sewer line breaking. It could be a lot of rain that comes through and it overflows some of the little lakes and rivers that we have here. It really is any water that's coming inside your home from the outside. So we talk about a couple different zones that we have here in Florida. Zone AE is probably the more common one around the coastal communities, and then Zone X is where we go in a little bit. So just be sure to talk to your insurance professional and make sure you understand whether or not your home is covered for flood, and maybe the cost of including that could be minimal. So definitely take a look at that as well. Now that we've been through homeowners insurance, I have a pop quiz for you. So hopefully you were taking great notes throughout this entire session, and here are a couple quick questions for you to jot down. One, we talked about early on, what are the 4 components covered by your homeowner's insurance? 2, name at least 3 factors that can affect the cost of your insurance. 3, how about you go ahead and name 2 covered perils as well. There was a list of about 7 to 8 of them earlier on in this presentation, so go back and take a look at your notes. 4, give an example of an other structure that was coverage B on our policy. What's included in that part of your policy? 5, let's name an endorsement to your insurance policy. The endorsements, as you recall, were the added features that we could add to your current insurance policy. 6, what is a loss that could occur that perhaps may not be included in your homeowner's insurance? 7, who's your favorite insurance agent? And 8, who builds the most efficient homes in Florida? Thank you so much for your time today. I'm Angela Duncan of We Insure Tampa Bay, and good luck on your search for becoming a homeowner.